right? So I'm trying to bring awareness to the fact that you can pressurize for a long period of time and what the mechanisms of action of hyperbaric medicine are. So we knew a whole bunch of them. So we knew like decreased inflammatory markers, decreased neuroinflammation, increased activity, increased cognitive function, decreased phase lag, that kind of stuff. Those were all known mechanism of action that we knew were going to come out of this, but we wanted to kind of highlight them for the world so that on the world stage, we could show them, hey, look, this does work.
Welcome to Life After Impact, the Concussion Recovery Podcast. I'm Dr. Ayla Wolf, and I will be hosting today's episode where we help you navigate the often confusing, frustrating, and overwhelming journey of concussion and brain injury recovery. This podcast is your go-to resource for actionable information, whether you're dealing with a recent concussion, struggling with post-concussion syndrome, or just feeling stuck in your healing process. In each episode, we dive deep into the symptoms, testing, treatments, and neurological insights that can help you move forward with clarity and confidence. We bring you leading experts in the world of brain health, functional neurology, and rehabilitation to share their wisdom and strategies. So if you're feeling lost, hopeless, or like no one understands what you're going through, know that you are not alone. This podcast can be your guide and partner in recovery, helping you build a better life after impact. Today's guest on Life After Impact, the Concussion Recovery Podcast, is someone who quite literally pushes the boundaries of human potential underwater, in the lab, and in the classroom. Dr. Joe Dituri is a retired U.S. Navy commander with over 28 years of service in special operations, deep submergence, and undersea systems engineering. He's a PhD in biomedical engineering, a decorated officer, and a pioneer in hyperbaric medicine and life support technologies. He also holds a Guinness World Record as the man who lived underwater for 100 days during Project Neptune 100. This was a world record-breaking mission aimed at studying human physiology under prolonged hyperbaric conditions, raising ocean awareness, and inspiring thousands of students to pursue science and engineering. With 3 decades of elite military diving experience, Dr. Dituri has helped develop rescue systems for submariners, designed dry submersibles for Navy SEALs, and co-authored the Navy Diving Manual and the Art and Science of Hyperbaric Medicine, a go-to resource for clinicians in this emerging field. Currently, he serves as Assistant Vice President of Veterans Clinical Research at the University of South Florida, where he leads clinical trials focused on treating traumatic brain injury, teaches medical engineering, and continues to advance the science of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. From the depths of the ocean to the frontiers of neuroscience, Dr. Dituri brings a rare blend of operational grit, scientific rigor, and humanitarian purpose, and we are honored to have him on the show today. Dr. Joe Dituri, you are one of the most well-accomplished people I know. Your background, your bio, your experience is incredible. And the reason I wanted to have you on the show today is because as an expert deep sea diver and somebody who holds a world record for spending 100 days in pressure under the sea, you're the best person to talk to about the effects of oxygen on the brain. And so thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your expertise. You're currently leading the biggest hyperbaric oxygen therapy research study for veterans in the world right now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, and I'm excited.
Wonderful. Well, why don't we start out? Give me your background. I mean, you have spent so much time under the ocean doing some probably pretty cool top secret work.
All right, real quick. So I spent 28 years in the United States Navy. I got to hang out with really cool people and do great things. When I finished that, my boss at the time, Bill McCraven, asked me what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do when I grew up, basically. And I says, look, I don't want to come work for you. That's for sure. So he asked me a favor. Would I sit on the preservation of the force and family? And I said, yeah, sure, I will. I did that for a little bit. And I came back to him. I said, Bill, we're talking to our veterans with TBI, but we're not doing anything. Psychology and psychiatry has a limit. And he looks me dead in the eye and goes, permission granted, Aquanaut, fix the problem. And I went, fuck. Right now, I'm like, what am I going to do now? So I went back to school. I got a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I said, I'm going to fix brains because I'm smarticle, right? No, right? Then I started fixing them this way. And then when I did, the good Lord basically said, Joe, take a right. And I said, no, I got it. I'm fixing them with just this. And then he said, no, take a right. I told you to take a right. And then finally he threw a 6,000-pound SUV at my head and gave me a traumatic brain injury. And now I'm like, best thing that ever happened to me. And now I'm trying to fix them the right way.
That's amazing how life throws us curveballs, and crazy that you were on the track to studying TBI one way, then you get your own TBI, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to go this direction now.
Yeah, it's one of these like, holy mackerel, the universe has got a plan. He's got a plan for you. There is a plan. I don't know what it is, but it unfolds before you. You can worry about it all day long, or you can just ride this freaking wave.
Yeah. So tell me about your recovery. What are some of the things that you did to help recover?
It was this easy. And I'll go back and tell your listeners real quick that the quick story. I came to the point where I was despondent, right? And I felt that, okay, now I am hopeless, right? Here I am, a clinical researcher for traumatic brain injury, and I have a traumatic brain injury. I can't read. I can't write. I can't think. I'm crying all the time. When you say unburdened anger, like I want to rip the steering wheel off the car, all that happened to me. So I was like, okay, I can't do the one thing that I'm here on this planet for, is to help people. And I can't do that anymore. I set a date for suicide. So here I am setting the date. It was on my birthday, December 8th, and September 7th is when the car hit me. So I went through this real deep lull. And then I was like, okay, but before I do that, I'm Catholic and I have 3 daughters. I says, I have to do everything, because when I get to the pearly gates, I have to be able to tell them, look, man, I did freaking everything. And when I did everything, so you asked me what I did. When I did everything in combination in a short period of time, holy mackerel, I started getting better, and then better, and then more better, and then more betterer. And then all of a sudden, I'm better than I was before I started. And I said, there's something to this. And I'm steeped in science, right? Science wins over bullshit. So I'm like, hold on, which thing works best, right? Okay, I have to get rid of all the confounding variables and do that one thing. No, that is the wrong way to approach science. And we need to change scientists' mindset. It's not just one thing. If you ask somebody, hey, this plant, what does it need? Water, sunlight, food. Well, we intuitively know it needs water, sunlight, and food. So the human body, the human brain needs to be fixed physically, physiologically, and psychologically simultaneously. If you leave one of those out, you're going to miss the boat on fixing the person, and you're not going to do them justice.
Absolutely.
Everything. Red light therapy, beam remat therapy. I faced east and watched the sunrise and got the red light in my eyes. I grounded every morning. I hopped up and down on a peg. I did ice bath. I did saunas. When I say everything, if I didn't think it was going to hurt me and I applied a little bit of, science to it, like, hey, that's not going to work, or there's nothing to that, that and no drugs.
And so talk a little bit. So you didn't just spend 100 days underwater for funsies and to break world records. You actually did this to prove that it is safe to be under pressure in that sense. So talk a little bit about, when people think about diving, obviously they envision scuba divers, and you're talking about something completely different. So describe the difference between the type of situation you're in versus what people might envision when they think diving.
Sure. So when you go scuba diving, you're under what we call hyperbaric pressure. Hyper means more than, baric means pressure. So if you're in a hyperbaric pressure environment, you're at an elevated pressure. While I was underneath the water for 100 days, I did it for three basic reasons. The first was to do science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to kids, to let them know that science is not just about white lab coats and beakers and microscopes and they're on board already, right? It's more than that, and you can do science in a cool environment. The second thing was I'm a biomedical engineer, so I wanted to do blood, urine, saliva, electrocardiograms, electroencephalograms, pulmonary function tests, all that sciencey stuff. And the third thing that I wanted to do was talk to all of the people about reaching out to all of the experts in the industry about saving our marine environment. So those are the three main things that we did. But the fourth thing on a side tangential note was I stayed underwater at the exact pressure, hyperbaric medicine, that we treat traumatic brain injury right now, 1.7 PO2, 1.7 ATA, 1.7 PO2 if you're using 100% pure oxygen, right? So I'm trying to bring awareness to the fact that you can pressurize for a long period of time and what the mechanisms of action of hyperbaric medicine are. So we knew a whole bunch of them. So we knew like decreased inflammatory markers, decreased neuroinflammation, increased activity, increased cognitive function, decreased phase lag, that kind of stuff. Those were all known mechanism of action that we knew were going to come out of this, but we wanted to kind of highlight them for the world so that on the world stage, we could show them, hey, look, this does work. And they're like, oh, that newfangled thing called hyperbarics. I'm like, okay, hyperbarics has been around since the 1600s. Like almost 400 years, 1664, I think.
It's not new.
Right? It's not at all, right? So, but it fell off because we weren't able to describe the mechanisms of action, right? Every single drug that comes out has a mechanism of action. A non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, an NSAID, it decreases inflammation. That's its mechanism of action, right? Cardiac drugs, everything, vasoconstriction, vasodilation, all of that stuff is stuff that we're looking for as a mechanism of action for the drug. So this is where I go to med school and I'm teaching med school and I'm telling the kids, look, you have to focus on the mechanism of action. If you want a powerful anti-inflammatory, you can either A, do hyperbarics, or B, do a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, or C, do like a Medrol dose pack or something like that, steroid type thing that can reduce inflammation. All three of those will do the same job. However, one is two or a pill and one is a lifestyle change. Do you want to change your patient's lifestyle? That's the difference.
Imagine trying to do something good for your body, like make a high-protein smoothie for breakfast or after a workout, only to find your protein powder is full of junk. Heavy metals, artificial sweeteners, and chemicals you can't even pronounce. It is frustrating when you try to do the right thing, but instead you just end up adding to the toxic burden in your body. As someone who cares deeply about what goes into my body, as well as the patients that I work with, I believe that what we consume regularly needs to support our health, not silently sabotage it. That's why I use Puri. Their protein powder is made from clean, high-quality ingredients, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals and contaminants because they don't just say it's pure, they actually prove it. You can find collagen peptides, whey protein, and plant-based options on their website. Check them out at puri.com. That's PUORI.com, and use the code LIFEAFTERIMPACT for a 20% discount on your first order. Well, and there are side effects to taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And I mean, I've had a number of patients develop diabetes as a result of being put on prednisone for long periods of time.
And 15 pounds right on the waistline. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So when it comes to chronic situations, it's like, okay, maybe we need to look at this a little bit differently.
That's exactly it. And to go back to the veteran side of the house, here we are busting these people up. And okay, so it's not even just veterans. So veterans get exposed to TBIs. But as you see, I was in a motor vehicle accident. I spent 28 years in the Navy, didn't have a knockout. I got hurt, but never got knocked out. I got knocked unconscious in my 47 Chevy, right? Holy mackerel. MBAs can do it. Domestic abuse, third leading cause of traumatic brain injury. I was shocked at that. Shocked. Right. So we have to start thinking that TBIs can come from a lot of different places, not just the military kids. But when you approach this, the blast and the radius and all that stuff, that seems like it's a compelling factor. But I don't want to leave anybody out of this discussion because there are millions of traumatic brain injuries. Incidentally, you probably already know this. I don't know if your listeners do, but traumatic brain injury has been on the books since 1600 BC.
Yeah.
1600 BC. For millennia, we have been differentiating this and kind of figuring you got hit in the head, you're bad off, right? Only in about 1000 AD did we first make our determination the difference between concussion and traumatic brain injury. I think that was actually 1300, right? So FDA, medicine, regular medicine, big pharma, you've had this problem for thousands of years. How you doing? How's it going? Oh, there is no endpoint. I'm running the largest clinical trial. I'm helping with the largest clinical trial in hyperbaric medicine history ever done in the whole world, right? And here this thing doesn't have a satisfactory endpoint because the FDA has no satisfactory endpoint for a cured traumatic brain injury after thousands of years. And I said, well, I suggest maybe we're doing it wrong. If you don't have an answer yet, we're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Well, and within medicine, we have standardized protocols or standard of care for various disorders, diseases, events. We have an emergency standard of care when somebody gets a concussion, but when somebody is a year out and they're still struggling, there's no standard of care for what you do with the person who didn't recover in the standard window. And so that's part of the problem as well. Now I'm curious. So your study has over 460 participants. It's a huge
420,
study.
yeah.
Okay. And what are your objective markers? What are you measuring before and after the HBOT sessions?
So interestingly enough, the same stuff or similar stuff to what I did while I was underwater: blood, urine, saliva, electrocardiograms, electroencephalograms, pulmonary function tests, theses sampling, diffuse tensor imaging, MRIs, like the whole gamut of everything. And like we cast a really wide net because there are zero approved biomarkers for long-term traumatic brain injury. Zero approved biomarker changes. None. So we're just testing everything. Every kind of blood. We're doing interleukin testing, all these myokines, like crazy amount of blood testing that you would never even suspect. And the diffuse tensor imaging is second to none. And we're using all the great places to analyze this. Like our blood is going to Duke to be analyzed because they're blood experts. Our diffuse tensor imaging MRI, that's being shipped out to Australia because they have an AI component that is reading them and trending the imaging, right? So we took all the greatest things in the world, and I'm not the leader of that study by any wild stretch. I'm just one of the cats that's helping on it. So, but we did get a grade A team together.
It really sounds like it. And I will say, I don't think I have ever seen a study with 420 people in it where they're doing DTI on every single person before and after the intervention. That's going to be astounding. And I'm so excited to see the outcome of that information.
You and me both, right? But this is the thing. Science takes a long time. I got 3 more years of data collection and then probably a year to write it up.
Yeah.
It took 4 more years. Everybody's like, we need a cure now. And I'm like, look, I get it. I get it because I wanted a cure instantly and there is no instant cure, right? What do you have to do? Everything. How long do you have to do it for? As long as it takes, right? Just keep trying, right? Because I guarantee you, if you do nothing, nothing's going to happen, or the same thing is going to happen. But you have to be able to affect change in your body. You have to be able to try and change things.
Yeah, yeah. So, a couple of questions I want to ask you. I have heard of people talking about pulsing the oxygen when somebody is in the HBOT, because when you're in a high pressure oxygen situation, some different physiological changes happen. Then when you come out of that high oxygen situation, your body has a reflexive response to the change in oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are saying that that reflexive response is also part of the healing that occurs. And so some people are now kind of pulsing the oxygen throughout an HBOT session. So talk to me a little bit about, have you looked into that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's preclinical research at this point, right? So we're doing a clinical trial. We are staying here at one pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in preclinical research, we have found that when you decrease the oxygen concentration and then give the oxygen concentration back and then decrease it again and then give it back again and decrease it again, what you do is you upregulate something called HIF-1 alpha, or hypoxic inducing factor. They won the Nobel Prize in 2019 for this. So it's not like it's old, right? This is brand new stuff. Nobody's ever had it before, right? So when you upregulate HIF-1 alpha, you upregulate brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Okay.
And if you upregulate BDNF, that's similar to the lawn seed for the brain. And then if I give you more oxygen, oxygen is like watering the lawn seed on the brain, right? So it's like you give it water. You give it water, right? So, sunlight, water, food, right? You're trying to do this all together. But that's preclinical research. It's not there yet. I know that those things happen, but that doesn't mean this, right? Causation, not correlation, correlation, not causation,
Yeah, yeah. Still a lot of research that needs to be done. Okay, next question. Some people have soft shell HBOT machines in their office. Other people have hard shell. Talk to me about the difference in terms of the devices that currently exist clinically.
Yeah. So most of the current research that has been done at 2.0 or higher. So there's a small window range from 2.0 to 3.0. But remember, hyper means more than, baric means pressure. So we have found, and we have done research on this at the lower pressures, and we have found that if you just go to 1.3 ATA, it's all about the pressure that you go to. What do you need? Different pressures affect different mechanisms of action. One mechanism of action for hyperbaric medicine is toxin inhibition. Toxin inhibition needs to be up here. Needs to be up at the 2.8, 3.0 level. That's where we see the toxin inhibition working its best. Does it work down here? Sure it does. It works down here to lower pressure. It just works less, right? Inflammation. Decrease in inflammation, like a decrease in interleukin 6, increase in interleukin 23, pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory cytokines. That works best at about 1.3, 1.4. That's the lower pressure. When you go higher, does it still decrease inflammation? Yes, just not as well, right? But the range is from about 1.0, 100% oxygen, to 3.0, effectively 300% oxygen. So somewhere in there. So what my question to the people that ask me that question is, what is the malady that you're trying to treat? Doctors, you need to know all these mechanisms of action and where they're best portrayed in the figure and match the person with that, and then practice medicine while you're doing it by evaluating your patient and looking for objective quality measured changes, just like we were talking about before we started.
Okay, so when you're talking about toxin inhibition,
Yeah.
then you're immediately thinking what, somebody that has, say, like Lyme disease, or somebody that has these infections that their body's trying to combat?
Yeah. So toxin inhibition, like mold, is a toxin, right? So we use it for gaseous gangrene. Gaseous gangrene, we want to inhibit those toxins. We want to get your body to stop allowing toxins to reproduce, right? Or to get the toxins out of your body in some way, shape, or form. We realize and we see through lots of objective testing and measurement that if you get the oxygen concentration right here, right? So this is 35 millimeters of mercury. You know, when you put that stupid little light on your finger, that's about 35 millimeters of mercury of oxygen. Well, we're at 760 millimeters of mercury pressure right now, and you're only getting 35 in your finger. What we have found is that toxin production stops at 450 millimeters of mercury, give or take. Stops. It cannot reproduce, alpha toxins, gaseous gangrene, all of those C proteins, all of that kind of stuff stops reproducing at 450 millimeters of mercury. So if you get the oxygen to here to 450 millimeters of mercury, you can stop oxygen production, or you can stop toxin production. Right. But that's a slippery slope, because when you get up to 3.0, that's human tolerance. Humans cannot tolerate any higher than 3.0. Right. So you really don't have much of a band to work with. Right. You get to here, minimum effective dose. And that's the problem. Who funds hyperbaric oxygen research? Well, the drug companies do. Oh, there are no drug companies. Who are the drug companies when it comes to hyperbaric oxygen therapy? In my opinion, it is the hyperbaric chamber manufacturers, right? Because they're kind of peddling the drug, if you will, whatever. But otherwise, nobody's making money off this. There's no we're going to make $1 billion off this. Trust me, anybody in the hyperbaric business is not making $1 million. They're not making $1 billion. Nobody's getting rich here. But it's basically compressing the oxygen that we have on the planet, naturally produced, by the way, by trees and, plants and stuff. So, we compress that down, and then we use a hull to hold that pressure in. And we've been doing this for, 42 forevers,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So different pressures have different mechanistic effects on the body.
100%.
And so based on kind of what somebody is coming in for, that would determine what the best pressure is for that person. Or maybe they need multiple pressures if there's different things happening at different pressure.
Yep. This is why the doctors need to take a class, right? Like, doctors are smart people. I get it. But you have to know the mechanism of action and where you want to put them on this number line from, 1.0 to 3.0. When you put them here, it does something different than when you put them here, right? It's wonky, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you teach this class, it sounds.
Well, I teach that class at med school, but find an instructor from the International Board of Undersea Medicine or something like that, right? This is one of these, go find a good instructor near you and get them to teach you. It'll be good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. And then my next question, some people are combining, we talked about, with research, you have to look at one thing, HBOT by itself, same pressure whole time, right? But in clinical practice, in real world, we like to stack different therapies. And so I know some people, when they're using HBOT, they're also encouraging the person to be doing cognitive exercises or different things to stimulate their brain while they're in the HBOT or immediately after. So what are your thoughts on, and even maybe your personal experience on trying to stack therapies with HBOT clinically?
Stacking therapies is always a better concept, right? Because the whole is better than the sum of its parts, right? I mean, it's not going to work. The onesies, twosies are no longer going to work as effectively as multiple therapies. However, caution, warning, right? Please don't stack things that don't go together in the hyperbaric chamber. I'll give you a perfect for instance. Red light therapy, wonderful on its own. However, red light therapy requires, in my estimation, a varying wavelength requiring at least 110 volts, if not 220, right? With a varying intensity and magnification and a heat generating source. And we already know that heat and power do not go well inside a hyperbaric chamber. So please, don't stack those modalities, right? Don't, I see people wanting to work out in a hyperbaric chamber. You can absolutely exercise in a hyperbaric chamber. Exercise lowers your oxygen toxicity threshold. It used to be 3.0 when you're laying there doing nothing. But if you're in there working out, do you think 2.0 is safe? We don't know. Nobody knows, right? So here you are working out, maybe 1.3 is safe enough. No, it's fine, right? I'm on my rowing machine, it's fine. Wait. Rowing machines have metal wheels on metal rails, which create friction. Friction rubs together. Friction creates heat. Heat and oxygen. Oh God, please stop. Right? So, like, don't stack the modalities, or if you're going to, get somebody smart to make sure that whatever you're doing is correct, right? Is it good to do breathing exercises while you're in a hyperbaric chamber? I do them all the time, right? I do a quad breathe, 4 count, 4 count, 4 count. We've done that in the military for years to reduce our parasympathetic, relax, calm down a little bit, right? So that's the kind of thing that's great. Can you do eye exercises? Oh boy, yes, those are great. Like those functioning visual things. Can you, can you listen to meditation? Absolutely. If you have an approved device that's inside that's giving you sound, yeah, sure. Why not do a meditation, right? Should I do a hallucinogenic inside a hyperbaric oxygen chamber? Oh my God, I'm a little bit afraid, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, ah, you,
Yeah.
you gotta ask.
I was thinking more along the lines of like eye exercises or cognitive exercises. You just opened a whole nother level of like, oh
Sorry.
wow.
No, I'm sorry, but like you see all this craziness happening on the internet. I literally saw a video of a girl inside a hyperbaric chamber with her red light mask on and an oxygen mask over the red light mask, pushing the oxygen through the red light mask. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Oh, please stop. Please stop. Right. So this is the kind of thing that we're dealing with, right? People like, I can't get away from my cell phone. I have to have my cell phone on me 24/7. It needs to be in the chamber. No. First of all, you, me, everybody, we need a break from this damn cell phone. Mine sits over here on the charger over there, right? It doesn't sit in my pocket. I try and get away from it. I try, right? I'm addicted just like everybody else. But we got to try and get away from that. So don't bring the cell phone in there. But yeah, if you have a way to do eye exercises and breathing techniques and you can listen to a meditation, sure, that's great stacking of modalities at this point. But yeah, any of the craziness, yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah. No, I wasn't even thinking of the craziness, but honestly, you're right. People are doing crazy things, so it probably absolutely needs to be said. Like these are
Yeah.
the things that you cannot do when you're in the HBOT.
Right.
So
Just take a class, learn, right? It's like everything else. Just learn and go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I also know like some people they'll do their HBOT and then afterwards they'll come out and they'll do a bunch of rehab, immediately after too. So people are kind of not maybe stacking at the same time, but stacking right
Yep.
after they're doing
So
their session.
I've done ice bath before and ice bath after. I've done sauna before. I've done sauna after. I can't see much of a measurable difference. I am freezing after I do my ice bath. So it's really uncomfortable. So it's better for me after, and the sauna is better before. But I don't know. That kind of stuff. Yeah, I get it. EWAT training, stuff like that afterwards is always, it's always beneficial. But yeah, that kind of stuff, we're actually getting to a point where I just ordered a new type of hyperbaric chamber. It's called a hypo, goes to altitude, like it goes to the top of Mount Everest and then pressurizes all the way down to 3.0.
Wow.
So it's a hyperbaric chamber. It can
Wow.
do both. And what we're going to do is a study on increasing brain-derived neurotropic factor by going all the way up to altitude and giving you hypoxia, and then coming back down and watering it on a severe jump up down. So we're going to see how that works.
Crazy.
It's fun. It's science, right? This is what keeps me awake at night.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I think is, one of the biggest barriers to HBOT is the amount of sessions people have to do. So talk about minimum effective dose, ideal dose, and how this is structured for people who may not be familiar.
I'll give you a very sad answer and the truth right up front. We don't know, right? Minimum effective dose, we have no idea, right? I can tell you that if you want to decrease inflammatory markers, I have had really good results with 10 to 12 treatments, reduces the interleukin 6 enough in 10 to 12 treatments. However, if you're treating traumatic brain injury, it seems to be more like 25 to 40. Nobody really knows. And that's because there is no drug company funding these studies. The study that I'm doing right now at the University of South Florida, right? USF is doing this study because the governor of the state of Florida and the Speaker of the House said, listen, we want to help our veterans and we want to figure out the science behind hyperbaric medicine. So we're going to fund this. So he funded us. That's the only funding that people get in hyperbaric medicine. There is no like $20 million to go do this study or $50 million or $100 million to go do a phase 2 clinical trial. There's none of that kind of money rolling around. So unfortunately, we don't have those answers of minimum effective dose just yet. But there's people that are funding it out of their own pocket, right? So the International Bank of Joe is looking to do some more research.
Excellent. And how many women are in your study?
Half.
Wonderful.
Half. No, and this is the thing. And female veterans are hard to come by, but I'm like, girls, get in here. I'm done having this like it's only guys. So about half, it's a 40-something% right now, but about half of the people are coming in are female, which is great, right? Because we are, like we were talking about earlier, we are woefully inadequate in doing research on females because, man, you're so different.
Well, and I think one of the problems too is that even when females are included in the study, that doesn't necessarily mean that when all the data is being sifted through and all the statistics are being run, that people are even asking the question like, okay, we now have 420 before and after DTIs. Is there a difference in the female brains versus the male brains? Like that's the question that I would want to know. But do you know, is that one of the aims of your study to actually look at that?
It's one of the sub aims, right? Because you have to have a primary and a secondary, and then you have to have subs. So yeah, it's one of the sub aims. But yes, absolutely. The stratification of female to male and how their blood biomarkers differ, how their theses differ, how the urine differs, everything, right? Like how their EEG scores differ. Because y'all brains work totally differently than ours do. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And if a guy, you don't believe that, trust me. That's the way it is. I do a lot of EEGs on people, and women are just wired differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that makes me so happy that is actually part of your study. I mean, this is going to be so exciting when all this data comes out. And like you said, it's probably going to take you a year to sift through it all.
For 3.5 more years or so, we'll have something.
Yeah. Incredible. Amazing. So right now, you're also writing a book on your personal journey. So talk a little bit about the book you're writing.
Yeah, so it's Why My Traumatic Brain Injury is the Best Thing That Ever Happens to Me is the working title, right? And I'll give you just a real quick, for instance. I was engaged to a beautiful, 40-year-old Bulgarian fitness model. Like she was just fabulous. But when I got hit by the car, she couldn't find her way to the hospital, but 2 of the 7 days that I was in the hospital, I was like, this is not cool, right? So that's just one of the things that happened to me where it was like, okay, that made me realize that support system wasn't there. That person wasn't the right person for me. And after a couple of months, we were like, okay, we're done, right? And the changes that I had. Also, here I am, a person from the military, 28 years of active duty service, and then I didn't really have a lot of empathy. Now, being a traumatic brain injury survivor, I have more empathy. So when that kid was in my chamber with a traumatic brain injury and reached up and ripped the speakers off the wall because he had to go to the bathroom so badly, he's like, I have to shed. And that was literally the tone that he took, and he ripped the speakers off the wall. I was totally empathetic to him and his mom when his mom was pulling him out and trying to clean him up and then get him to the bathroom. And then she looks at me and goes, what's that going to cost me to repair? And I said, come here, you. I said, Mom, you're doing a great job. I didn't have that empathy before. God gave that empathy to me through my traumatic brain injury, right? So I needed this to be able to help people. This is, that among, a hopeful cure for traumatic brain injury and many, many, many other modalities, and just giving people hope when it comes to fixing traumatic brain injury. It's going to be great. Like I said, that's the working title. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to read it, and I'm so excited that you share your story with everybody, because people do need to hear, and I think especially from doctors, from people that are in positions of power, to also say, and I have empathy, and I have lived through this, and I'm now devoting my entire life to researching it to help you. I mean, that is so powerful.
Yeah, and this is where I kind of talk about you finding your purpose in life. Now that I have a purpose, I did the military thing, I did the teaching, I did this, I did that. Now it's like, I want to help. Right now, I just want to give back. I want, and that's my currency. So when you have that kind of currency, you get to do the things that you want to do, and everything else falls away. It's like all those little things fall away. How are we going to get the money? We'll figure it out. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll keep trying.
Yeah, amazing. Well, and you got the money.
Yeah, they ain't paying me that money.
Right.
I'm just a researcher and a college professor, so I don't have a pot to pee in.
Yeah, the money's going to the AI lab in Australia, it sounds like. Wow. Well, one time I had somebody on my podcast, and I said, if there was future research you would want to see, I go, what type of research would you want? And he goes, honestly, it's the kitchen sink studies that I think are the most fabulous. The ones where you can just throw all these different things at people and then see, did they get better? And sadly, those kitchen sink studies aren't really what we consider the gold standard, which is why we're left with having to do one thing by itself in isolation at a time first to say, here's how this thing works, and then go from there.
But whose model is that? That's the drug company model.
Yeah.
That's the drug company model, because they want to just see the red pill, the blue pill, the red pill, the blue pill. And that's it. And they have the ability to do that. All things remain the same. I just give you a pill. That's not real life. That is not real life. Now, you and I were talking before we even started. Is it beneficial for you to go to the gym, to spell gym with a G, right? Is it beneficial for you to drink a lot of water? Is it beneficial for you to have breath work and believe in some kind of faith in some way, shape, or form that this is all going to work out? All those things we know are beneficial. Now, is there a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study that proves that? No. But I'll give you a little piece of information. There is no double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study that cigarettes cause cancer. It's not ethical to do that kind of a study. So there is no proof. So that bar of randomized controlled clinical trials, it's a drug company thing. It really is. There are things that are ethical and unethical to do. So when you give somebody advice like, hey, have a better diet than frickin' Cheetos. Hey, drink a lot of water. And it has to be the right kind of water that's going to, nourish you. And get out in the sun a little bit and catch that early morning red light. Good. None of that's bad. And that's the Hippocratic Oath, right? Do no harm. So that's where I push people. I'm like, look, come on. This is not going to do you any harm, and it might just help. So yeah, try that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been in practice for 20 years, and I still say on a regular basis, are you drinking enough water? It's like for 20 years, I still have to come back to, are you drinking enough water here?
100%. See, people think that I drink coffee all day long. This is a cup of refillable water that I take my water bottle and I refill the water up and I drink water all day long. Absolutely. You need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And like I said, I'm excited about your book. I'm excited about the outcomes of all of this research. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing for this community. Thank you for including women in your study.
Oh, yeah. No, it's important. It really is. Look, they're over half the people on the planet, for Christ's sake. Can we figure these people out, please? Plus, I got a personal desire to figure them out too. So, because I still am not good at it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're ever going to figure us out, but you can try.
Yeah, that's the plan. So, yeah, no, really exciting work. And thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the listeners. If you want to get in touch with me or follow what we're doing, it's Dr. DeepSea. Look up Dr. DeepSea, Google it. That's usually the handle on most of the things, but
Excellent. I will share all that in the show notes. And then when your book comes out, maybe we'll have you back on the show. That'd be fun.
I would love that. I would love that. Yes, please. Thank you.
Super.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's great. And I love the compatibility of what you're doing too. Look, we got to do this differently. The drug company model's not working. Let's figure out a different way to help people.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Woohoo!
Well, thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you're doing. And we'll definitely have you back on.
Hoorah. Thanks.
Medical disclaimer. This video or podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and materials included is at the user's own risk. The content of this video or podcast is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and consumers of this information should seek the advice of a medical professional for any and all health-related issues. A link to our full medical disclaimer is available in the notes.